Hello, everybody. We are we are sorry. This is different. I guess some updating has been going on. I didn't know that until I clicked the start link. But welcome to the book club. I'm so excited tonight because we have um, a new bestie for me, and I hope that she'll be one of your besties too by the end of the night. So just remember that if you have questions, just go ahead and put them in our feed. It looks like I am able to see some names, but not others. So if you want to just make sure that I know who you are, put your name in your comment. Okay? So we're going to go ahead and get started, and we're going to bring Dylann Crush. Welcome, Dylann. Hi. Long time no see.
I know, right?
And we've already said that we're not going to tell the group what we've been talking about. No. So we will move on.
No, thank goodness we weren't live a few minutes ago.
Well, I was on your show a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for that. I got to read some of my book and make weird, funny faces and be kidded about it. I'm sorry, I just get so involved, I forget that it's weird. I know. Even my kids have always teased me about it. And I do the same thing for TV shows as well.
I thought you did a great job. And the replay will live forever. So if any of your book club members haven't seen it yet, you can find it on the Romance Happy Hour Facebook page or website or the YouTube channel. So
yes. So please go check it out and you'll see me reading and making funny faces. So tell us some about you, Dylann, to those that you are new to. Tell us a little bit of your background.
all right. I am a Midwest gal currently living in Minnesota. I was raised in Texas, so I've been slowly making my way up the middle of the country. And I write contemporary romance, cowboys, small town, everything has a little bit of humor in it. And what else can I tell you? I have 3 kids and 4 animals, so our house is always loud and chaotic and busy. And
Dogs or dogs and cats?
2 dogs and 2 cats. We used to just have 1 cat, and then for some reason I thought because this summer was so odd and there wasn't really much going on and my kids were super bored, I thought maybe it would be fun to get a kitten.
Oh.
So we got an 8-week-old kitten to add to the mix. And yeah, don't get a kitten if you're bored. She's been super sweet, but it's been definitely I've forgotten what it was like. I haven't had a kitten since when I was fresh out of college and got my very own first pet, and I had a kitten, and I forgot just how busy kittens are.
Yeah. Well, we are catless for the first time in a long time. We have no cats in our house, unless you consider Mr. Scott.
My husband takes offense when I say things like that.
So how long have you been writing?
I have been writing. I mean, I think like most writers, I've been writing for as long as I can remember, but I've definitely shifted gears several times. I used to write poems when I was younger and little short stories, and then I kind of, moved into longer stories, and I didn't really get serious about writing full-length books until a few years ago. So my very first manuscript, I think I finished in 2015.
Okay. We're kind of about the same starting point. My first book was in 2014.
Okay.
a little bit.
And then did you decide to indie publish right away, or did you go the traditional route?
I never wanted to go the traditional route. I've
Okay.
always been indie. I guess it's a control issue thing. Not saying I have issues with control, but it's a possibility. But yeah, so well, that's good. And have you always written contemporary? You've never branched out into anything else
Nope.
in your
I've
book?
always written contemporary, which is kind of funny because when I was younger, I always thought I would write like middle grade or YA, and that just isn't what kind of came out of me when I sat down to write my first book. And I thought I had written chick lit, and then people told me that chick lit was romance, and I was like, oh, I had never thought about it. As a reader, you don't necessarily think about where things fit. You just know
Right.
what you like to read, and as a writer, there's so much more to it. So I
Do
was
you,
surprised to learn that I had written a romance. Um, but I mean, every book I've ever read, I really only like them when they have romance in them. And so, that was fine with me. And so then I started immersing myself in the world of Romancelandia. And here I am.
do you have problems like I do with when you have to uh, um, only say like 2 or 3 sentences about your book to describe your book? Can you do that? That's just like
Um,
that's just horrible to me.
I can if I practice, if I think about it, and then, because you want to kind of try, they always say like an elevator
Right,
pitch. So you want to try to
right.
distill your book, your 90,000 word book into
Uh-huh.
this little tiny sentence or two. And so I can when I practice. So I did go the traditional route at first. And so I did have to practice, like condensing my book and my manuscript in this little kind of bite-sized
Yeah.
piece. But now I don't tend to do that anymore. Now as I'm writing, because I'm a hybrid author, so I write some traditional and for publishers, and then I also write indie and self-publish. And so, when you're self-publishing, you don't necessarily have to do that so much, because unless
Right,
you're just doing, like a tagline for a blurb,
right.
I think I've kind of gotten out of practice. And so, yeah, when people say, "What's your book about?" I normally launch into this long, rambling,
Yeah, I can do
um,
the long. I just can't do
yes,
the short.
paragraphs of useless information that.
And when people ask you what you do you still, when people ask me what I do back in the beginning when I first started, it was always like, well, I write. And then, what do you write? I write romance. You don't really want to admit it. But I've gotten much better with that now. Did you
Mhm.
go through that? Did you go through a period like that?
Yes, and it wasn't necessarily that it was, romance. It was just telling anybody I wrote anything, because I didn't want them to go find it then, because um but then, I mean, I think, the more that you approach this as kind of a career and a business, I get pretty touchy now when, we went and talked to a recently we talked to a like a finance guy. Well, I guess it wasn't so recently. It was, probably within the past 2 years. And we were talking about, setting up a business and all this. And the guy was very condescending and said, well, I mean, because my husband has been super supportive of me from day one. And, when we said, what does your husband do? And then he asked what I do. And I said, I'm an author. And he goes, oh, just kind of, he made it sound like, so kind of write as a hobby. I'm like, no, no, I publish books. I have books on different
Mhm.
retailers and things. And he said, but I mean, you don't really make any money at that, do you? And so I just thought it was, I mean, no, I don't make, tons and tons and tons of money yet, but there are people who do. I mean, there are a lot of people that are super successful in this industry. And so,
We're gonna be there, Dylan. We're gonna get there.
right. Well, and so, having this guy kind of then, talking down to me. That anytime stuff like that happens, it just kind of fires me up to be
Yep.
successful. Prove him wrong.
So tell us a little bit about your writing. How do you go about writing a book?
I'm still trying to figure that out.
Tell us your formula.
Well, I think
Are you a pantser or do you outline?
I kind of do both. My very first manuscript I ever wrote, I had no idea what I was doing, and I totally pantsed that. And about 75 to 80% of the way through, I realized, I was in a writing group, but we were a hodgepodge. We had one woman that was getting her MFA. We had someone that wrote plays for her church. We had someone that was writing a memoir. And so, we were just kind of a mix of all kinds of different genres and backgrounds and things like that. And so, about 75, 80% of the way through, I said, I think there should be a point. And I think the term that I was looking for at that point was, like a character arc. I didn't know what to call it, but I felt like, my character was pretty stagnant. I mean, all this stuff kept happening to her, but she hadn't really changed. She hadn't had, it's all good rom-coms, and I tend to go for, stuff with humor. And so even in movies and stuff, it's like they go through the character arc and something changes and they're not the same at the end as they were at the beginning. And so my very first book, it was afterwards. I kind of went back and thought, she should be different at the end. And again, I didn't know what to call it. And thus began my long, process of educating myself on the craft of storytelling and how to actually write a book. But I think, that one I pantsed. And so then I thought there has to be a better way. And so I started looking into how do you outline a book? And I mean, holy cow, as you know, you ask one person, and even from one person, you can get 10 different answers. And so when you ask 10 different people, you can get like 1,000 different answers. And so what I have discovered, and I don't know how many manuscripts I've written now, I'm somewhere in the double digits, but every single one of them has been different. And that's what is super exciting and fun. And it's also maddening because I haven't really found, a process that is reliable, that works. But I think the books come to me differently. Some books come and I immediately know the character and I know the plot points, and, it's just there, and it's a relatively easy book to write because it's just all there. And then other books, it's like, you feel like you're kind of doing that like army crawl the whole time and just barely making any traction. And so yeah, there's not really a formula, at least for me. But there have been a lot of things that have definitely gotten a little easier now that I know the right terminology, and I have a much, much, much better idea of, story structure than I did when I was first starting out. So
how long does it take you to write a book?
Again, it kind of depends on how fast it's coming. That first book took me about 18 months.
Wow.
I wasn't really, I didn't even know I was writing a book. I just kept, every time we'd get back together for my writing group, they'd say what happens next. And so I'd write another scene, and I didn't really have deadlines or goals or anything like that. Now, if I'm under a deadline or under contract, I can write a first draft in a month or 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks, but then it kind of depends on how it comes out, how long it takes to make it pretty.
Right.
Polish it up.
Once you finish it and it's edited and it's published, do you go back and reread any of your books?
I do sometimes. So I rarely, I would say, sit down and read it, from the beginning to the end, unless I need to fill in details for, like a story Bible or series Bible, because I'm writing more books in the series and I've forgotten what happens in book one. I will read it for that. But one thing that I found really interesting, I've got a couple books in audio now, and I thought it would be so fun to go back and listen to my own books, being read by a professional who actually knows what they're doing, and I hate it. I mean, they do a great job. It's not, that's not it. It's just, I don't know. It's something about hearing someone else read my own words back to me is it's uncomfortable for me. So
Well,
it's kind of funny.
I have just, and I don't know if my readers know this yet or not, but I've just had my first audiobook finished.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. It's just waiting to see when it's going to be published.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just playing a waiting game right now. So I'm excited about that. So I'll have to, I wasn't, I listened to it. I wasn't weirded out. So I wasn't weirded out.
It'd probably be weirder if I heard myself reading it. Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird feeling hearing someone else read my words back to me. It's just a weird feeling.
Well, I hate hearing myself because when I'm recorded, I have such a horrible accent. But
I think it's
don't.
Adorable, Elizabeth. I love your accent.
See, just like right now, I don't have an accent, but when it's recorded and I hear it, it's just a horrible accent.
It's funny.
Oh, let's get back to our questions. See, I told you I forget that I'm interviewing. We just talk about whatever.
That's all right. That's what makes it fun. And then it's more laid back.
Let's see. Do you map out your stories or do they just happen as you go? I guess you've already talked about that.
Yeah, it's kind of a mix.
What about this book that we read, The Cowboy Says I Do? How did that one come? How did that book come to be?
So that one, that one's traditionally published. So I went through my agent, and we had submitted some different ideas to my editor, Christine Swartz at Berkeley, and so we kind of worked on this concept a little bit together. And I'd given her, a couple different series ideas, and this is the one that they liked. And so, I had kind of come up with an idea for. I actually gave them ideas for 4 books, and they took 3 of them. And so the first 3 in the series are, they're already all written. This one came out this month, and then the next one comes out in January, and then the third one comes out in June. And so I just thought it would be kind of fun. Like I said, I grew up in Texas, and I love small towns. I love writing books in small towns because I feel like the town is almost a character, and there's just so many quirky secondary characters that you can bring into play. And in this one, Lacey and Bodie, just from the moment they showed up on the page, it's like I knew who they were. I kind of knew their personalities, and both of them have a lot of family issues that come into play, and it's a little complicated. And I also tend to have just kind of some wacky stuff happen in my plots. And so yeah, it just this one kind of came out. And the second book in this series was harder to write because I had set up the blurb and everything, and they had signed off on that. And so that one's the one that's coming out in January, and I had a tougher time with that one.
So can you tell us who the other 2 books are about? Did we meet them in the first book?
So you meet the heroine. So the first book is Lacey and Bodie, and Lacey is the mayor, and her best friend is Zena, who runs the local pit bull rescue. Yep. And so the heroine in book 2 is Zena, but her hero is someone that comes in from out of town.
Does Lacey's brother have a book?
Not yet. Not yet.
I was kind of wanting to say yes.
You talk to my editor about that. We'll see what we can do.
Okay, we'll start a what's it called? We sign up. I want to see your book.
Oh, a petition?
Petition. There you go. We'll start one of those.
Yeah, his book would be fun to write.
It would. What is your all-time favorite book to read?
Oh gosh, I always hate this question because it's, I mean, if you could see my bookshelf, it's like, how do you pick just one?
One.
I don't know. I think whenever somebody asks me, it's hard to say because there's so many good books that I've read recently, but I guess I tend to go back to, Outlander. And just because I feel like it took me 3 times to start reading that book. We had picked it for book club. And I mean, I had a hard time getting into it at first. There was so much. Have you read it?
I have not read it, but I've
Okay.
seen the series.
Yep. But the first book, there's so much talk about all these herbs and the plants and stuff like that. And I would start off reading, and back then my kids were a lot younger, and so I just had like little snippets of time where I could read like 5 pages here or a chapter here, and like every time I started reading it, I'd get so dragged down and all that, and then I had like set it aside, not get back to it for a couple days, and then I had to kind of figure out where I was again. And so it took like 3 different times to start reading it. I had to keep starting over. And then once, I got through maybe like the first chapter or two, and then it was like, oh my gosh, I was hooked. And then I couldn't put it down. I mean, I remember like my husband would be, because at the time I was only working part-time, and I remember like my husband would be coming home from work, and I would be sitting, like kind of playing with one of the smallest kid on the carpet while I was reading it with one hand, and kind of trying to keep him occupied with the other. And then I knew my husband coming home, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't even thought about dinner yet. And so I got pretty caught up in that book, and so then I read all of them, and then when it started coming out on Stars, I was so excited, and then I got to go meet Cabaldon a couple years ago in Arizona at a writers' conference, and she signed my book, and so so that one holds a special place in my heart.
Oh wow, that's awesome!
Oh, it was pretty cool. I know. Now that I think about it, I should have taken like 5 and had her sign them so I could give them away, but I only thought of me.
I see how it is.
Yep.
So tell us, what is your favorite of all time book that you've written?
Oh. I feel like my favorite book is always the one that I've just finished, and like edited, and like it's done. Because I mean, I don't know if you feel the same way, but there's like this cycle that you go through when you're working on a book. You start it and it's like fun and exciting and fresh and new, and then you get to the halfway point and it's kind of like
The muddling middle.
Yes, and then you get to the end and it's like yes, but then you have to go through edits, and I mean, normally by the time I turn a book in fully edited and everything, it's like I never want to read that book again. Like, so I'm done with it. So normally my favorite book is the one that is just done. But I don't know. It's hard because they're like kids.
I know.
I mean, there's different things I love about each one.
Is there anyone that you identify with more than others?
I'd say probably the one I identify most with is the first book in my Lovebird Cafe series, which is called Sweet Tea and Second Chances. And that book is based on a real place. I used to spend some summers at my grandparents' farm in rural Missouri. And so the house is based on my grandparents' farm, and there was not a super cute boy that lived across the pasture that I fell in love with. So that part's not true. But it's like I guess I pulled from, spending summers on the farm and going out in the pasture and getting chased by the bull, and just a bunch of different things that I remembered from my childhood that I got to put into that one. And so that one, I guess, it just reminds me of my grandparents' place.
We have somebody joining us from Australia.
Ooh, hello.
I don't know who, but
it's his Facebook user.
Facebook user, welcome.
Facebook user.
Everybody comment and let us know where you're from, where you are viewing us from tonight. How's that? Let us know. What was your inspiration for this story?
For this one, I mean, again, I think just thinking of all the different small towns and just how small towns have continued to try to reinvent themselves. In this town, their biggest employer kind of pulls out. And so, as the mayor, the newly elected mayor, Lacey has quite a bit. She's got to figure out how to save the economy and figure out how to get jobs for the people that were working for the big import company. And so I think just, thinking about kind of what a lot of small towns are going through right now. And then a lot of the towns, like I've been to several different places in the hill country in Texas, and a lot of them have kind of revamped themselves into touristy places. They're either I don't know, bluebonnet festivals. And, you think about like Magnolia in Waco, and look what they've done for the economy there. Or
I would love to visit them.
So, yeah, it's just, kind of thinking about what are small towns experiencing right now? A lot of them that have had their economies change. And Lacey just had such a good heart. And so she got the idea from looking through an old magazine. And I used to do event planning and stuff, so familiar with what it takes to plan big events and weddings and stuff like that. And so it just seemed like a natural fit.
Awesome. What did you love best about Brody and Lacey?
I think I really like the dynamic. Bodie is her older brother's best friend, and I love that trope because it's rife with conflict and tension. And of course, he knows that Luke is gonna. We probably can't kick his booty. I'll say kick his booty. He thinks that he's been, messing around with his little sister while he's stationed overseas. And so I think I love that trope, and really enjoyed playing. I really like second chance romance too. I love it when the hero and the heroine have a history that they bring into the relationship. And so not only are they navigating the current relationship, but they're also trying to make sense of the relationship they've had in the past. And so I think that's what was so fun about this is, she was the pesky one that was always following them around. And so just kind of seeing how his impressions of her change as, he starts to look at her as somebody besides his best friend's pesky little sister.
Let's see. What's your favorite trope to read and write?
Well, I love second chance. I love, friends to lovers, enemies to lovers. I really like it when they have a relationship already, whatever form that might take. I also like small town. But yeah, anything like that. Although there's so many that are fun to write that I hate to say that, I just.
Is there one that you have always wanted to write but you haven't?
I think it would be fun to do something with amnesia, although because so many books, and I haven't read very many lately, but I mean, I used to, snag books off my mom's bookshelf when I was a preteen and young reader. And I mean, some of those, they're like soap operas and just so unbelievably done, that I think it would be fun to try to write an amnesia trope that was actually realistic, that wasn't so far gone that it was, unbelievable.
So here's a question for you. Do you keep hearing the gremlins in here?
No.
The gremlins?
No.
Okay. Okay.
Do you have ghosts at your place?
I don't know. Here's a question for my readers. Which one of my books had amnesia in it? Just a little bit. Comment and let me know. Who knows which one of my books had amnesia in it? Let's see if they know. I bet they do. Um, do you have a special routine while you're writing?
So it depends on where I am in the process, but I have found I'm an extroverted introvert. So I mean I do like my alone time and stuff, but if I'm around people, I can't get anything done because I'd rather chat. So I found that I have to write by myself. I've tried, pre-COVID, I would try meeting up with friends in a coffee shop and stuff like that, and it just never worked for me because I would much rather sit there and chat than work on my stuff. And so I found that I work best when I'm by myself. And I'm actually, the way that my desk is set up, I face the wall because if I face a window, I get distracted and I want to look out and see what's going on. So I have to isolate myself to get my best work done. I do enjoy making a playlist for each book. That's
Oh,
something that I do enjoy doing before I get started writing. And then, the first couple times I listen to it, it it I can hear the music and I hear the words and everything like that. But then as I keep going and I just listen to it on repeat, then it's just one of those kind of subliminal triggers that it's like, okay, I've sat down and now I'm here and I'm working on this book because these are the songs that, kind of convey the mood of that particular book I'm working on. So I do that.
I either the way my setup is I have two monitors, so I can be working on this one and have something else on the other one. So when I'm writing, I usually have either a Hallmark movie going or HGTV.
Oh wow. See, I would get pulled in. My
I keep
husband
it
always
really
makes fun of
low.
me. Yeah,
Yeah.
if I sit down and see anything going, I immediately get sucked into the show and then I can't leave. So that would not work for me.
I just have to have it there as background noise.
Mm-hmm.
So just the hearing the conversation. Um, answered already some of these. What do you find the hardest about writing? What's the hardest part?
I think probably the hardest part for me is, when you get stuck, kind of figuring out where do you go from here? Because I like to have, a roadmap. I don't like to plot everything out to the point where I'm just basically filling in words because I think one of the most fun parts for me is I never really know what's going to happen when I sit down to write. I mean, I do have a roadmap and I kind of know, I mean, this is my hero and that's my heroine. And, by this point in the book, they're going to be, obviously having to work together towards something and falling in love because it's a romance. But, I like kind of not knowing, leaving a few things up to chance because I tend to discover things as I write, or I'll have a character show up out of nowhere and then it, becomes one of my favorite secondary characters, or strange pet will, show up or things like that. So I would say that's probably what I enjoy most is just kind of that discovery as I'm going. But then when you get stuck, because I know, up to a certain point, kind of what my plot points are. But then when I get stuck, it's kind of like trying to figure out how far back, where did I lose the thread? How far back do I have to go? And I hate wasting words. It kills me if I have
And
to go back
then
and delete,
and
five,
then you
eight
get
thousand words.
about I don't know 3/4 of the way through, and then you think of something that works better than something else, so you have to go all the way back and rewrite a bunch of it.
Right. Yep.
I loved when um, tell us about your favorite meet cute.
Ooh. One that I've written or one that I've read or
She did not specify, so whichever you wish.
okay. Well, one that immediately comes to mind because this is when I woke up. I'd had a dream and I woke up in the morning and I had the first line of my book and it was also the meet cute, and that was the Sweet Tea and Second Chances book. And so it's a second chance, but she comes upon him. They grew up across the pasture. She would spend summers at her grandparents' farm. See, this is where I'm going to go into one of those long things because I don't have my elevator pitch perfected. But they shared a pond. They shared a pond between these two properties, and she's come back to fix up her grandparents' house that she inherited, and she thinks he's long gone, but he's back taking care of his dad. And so when she comes into town, she stops by to visit the pond on her way in, and he was clearing out some brush and got all wet. So he's lounging nude, drying off, and she happens upon him. So that was kind of a, I don't know, people either love it or, they're caught a little off guard by that in my the first part of the book. So that was a fun one. Then I have in All-American Cowboy, it was kind of a little bit of a twist. He's the fish out of water that's coming back to Texas, and she comes upon him, and he's gotten his fancy rental SUV wedged into a ditch, and so she has to pull him out. And I always love that, when you've got the strong, sassy female, the heroine that is helping the rough and tumble hero out of a situation, that little role reversal there. So that one was kind of fun too.
Did you edit anything out of this book? Juicy bits that you
this one, the edits were not super heavy. I did have, at the end, I actually had, my editor made me change the ending a little bit because I actually had a fire. I mean, there's still a tiny bit of a fire, but I actually had part of the house caught fire, and it was a little bit more intense than what it ended up being in the book. And she's like, no, you can't have that big of a fire. No, you can't. So I downplayed the fire a little bit. But I would say that was the biggest change. And she was right too about the first kiss, because my first kiss was a little bit later, and so they had to have a little bit more drama a little bit earlier. So those are the big things on this one. Like I said, the next book had a lot of edits. A lot more edits. This one was actually relatively painless.
So yeah. When you're developing your characters, how in depth do you go developing them that may not even make it to the books? Like I know some authors, write their characters without, before they even start writing. They'll know even what flavors of ice cream they like, and all things like that. So, do you do anything like that?
I think about them a lot. I don't write it all down. I know I've seen some authors have, like 500 questions that they fill out about their characters, and I pick a couple points out of their history where I feel like I really know, some of the different very dramatic pieces of their past that kind of play into, their wound or their flaw. But I don't feel like I have to know every single little thing about them. Like in this book, Bodhi calls her Sweets, and that's because she used to always suck on butterscotch candies, and so it's like, I don't know why she always used to suck on butterscotch candies. It was just kind of something that came up, but then that's something that, carries through the whole book. And so, yeah, so I would say I think a lot about them. I do my best thinking. I mean, now really the only time that I get to be alone, because I've got, all 3 kids, and my husband has been working from home since March. And so I do my best thinking in the shower because I'm by myself.
We are so alike. We're sisters. That's me too.
Like right before you get up in the morning, that moment when you're still kind of closing your eyes, and you're still, kind of like you're closer to being awake than you are asleep, but it's before anyone has come in and started, mom, or the dog's not actually let out yet, the cat's not crawling. I mean, those are the best times where I kind of mull things over, and I'll jot notes down and stuff, but I don't go through any kind of formal questionnaire. I mean, I'll do a Pinterest board for every book. So I'll have pictures of people that I think, remind me of the hero and heroine, or I will, I'll go online and one manuscript I wrote, they actually traveled across the country in an RV, and so I spent an hour and a half looking at floor plans on custom RVs so I could explain exactly what it looked like inside. And so I do like to kind of fall down that research rabbit hole a little bit, but yeah, nothing super duper formal. There's definitely a few key things I have to know about my characters, but I don't have to make tons and tons of sheets or anything like that.
Switching gears a little bit, what do you guys do for vacation? Well, when you could do vacations.
What? Vacation?
When you could do, well, we went to the beach this year and stayed in the condo
Yes,
the whole time.
I remember seeing that.
And there happened to be a hurricane. That was the most expensive front row seat to a hurricane that we've ever had.
So I live in Minnesota and I grew up in Texas and I lived in Kansas City. So, I mean, I'm talking like middle of the country, right? And I experienced a nor'easter in North Carolina one year because we went out there for Thanksgiving and rented one of those big, huge houses with my husband's family in the Outer Banks. And we had a nor'easter come through, and I had never seen, I mean, we didn't see it because it was nighttime and dark and everything, but we experienced, no power. It was Thanksgiving, so, thank goodness it came back, but we were all trying to figure out how we were going to make, Thanksgiving dinner with no electricity. And,
well, I understand you can cook a chicken under your hood, so maybe your car. So.
It was amazing though. I mean, I'd never seen anything like it because, and we had, it was in the off season, you can rent some of those great big houses for much, much cheaper than you can during high season in the summer. So we had a beachfront, gorgeous house that his family had all gone in on to rent with, steps going like right over the dunes down onto the beach. And, the day we got there, we were out there and it was gorgeous and it was beautiful. And then the nor'easter came through and like beach was gone. Our steps had like a 6-foot drop off because the nor'easter had totally wiped out the dunes and everything. And so, yeah, and there was foam everywhere. All that foam. It was crazy.
Well, the up at the Outer Banks, their sand is a lot coarser than what we have down where we go, like closer to South Carolina. We go to Oak Island; it's a North Carolina beach, but the sand's finer there. So, when you're up at the Outer Banks, did you notice that the sand actually hurts you? Because I've been there when it was like super windy and stormy, and it was just like sand hurt. We got caught out walking on the beach, and before we got back, we were just in tears. It hurt so bad.
Yes, if it's a really windy day and the sand is blowing, I mean, I think of it as, like, ooh, it's free microdermabrasion. I mean, it's really like literally exfoliating. Definitely.
I had not thought of that. So if you could, are you a traveler? Do you like to travel?
I do. Yes.
Where would you go if you could go anywhere?
I got to spend, my husband and I, this before we had kids, we spent a couple weeks in New Zealand and it was so beautiful. But we were on such a tight time frame that there were a lot of things we didn't get to do because of weather. Because the climate there, I mean, it's crazy. You can be on the top of a glacier and then, you're like at the beach. I mean, it's such a small, relatively small geographical region. They have so many different kind of microclimates right there. And so like we had tried to go up on the glacier in a helicopter and then a storm came in and we had to miss that. And then we were going to go whale watching and the storm came in and we missed that. But, we'd had this itinerary planned because we only had a certain amount of time. And so I feel like we need to go back and this time we need to just rent an RV and take our time and meander. And I would like to do that. But I think also it would be nice to go to Italy, and I've been to Venice, but my husband is not had a chance to see much of Europe, and so it would be really nice to go to Italy and drink a lot of wine and eat a lot of pasta.
I vote for that.
Yep,
We had
that would
tomatoes
be nice
for
too.
last night. um, so tell us what's coming up for you. What are we going to need to be looking for?
Well, I am part of a rom-com anthology that is coming out September 29th. We're raising money for testicular cancer awareness, and there are 20 different rom-com stories for 99 cents, and that's the Jingle Balls anthology. So that will be my next release, and we're formatting that and putting the final touches on it right now, and that's a lot of fun. We've got some pretty cheeky content coming up. The foundation is working with us, and it's been a lot of fun putting that together. So I hope we raise a lot of money for balls awareness. So we got that going, and then I don't have any more releases through the end of this year, but I've got quite a few things coming up next year, as you know. Yes, secret stuff. I have my next book in this Tying the Knot in Texas series, comes out in January, and that one is called Her Kind of Cowboy. And so I have just finished editing that. And then I have another series. I was thinking I would get it out this fall, but with everything that's going on with the election and stuff, I decided to push it back. So that'll be coming out. I'll have a couple of releases in March. So yeah, next big book will be January. And then I have a couple of releases in March and April. And then the next book, and then Tying the Knot in Texas series, will be out in June. So
It's a year.
it will be. I hope so. Yeah.
I am envious of your writing cabin.
Oh, we have this little tiny cabin in northern Minnesota that
It doesn't look tiny, y'all. It doesn't look tiny.
well, that's because it's got two stories. You can see like the tall.
She's always telling me, "Oh, I'm at the cabin at the lake writing." I'm like, "How am I all this?"
We just got this little cabin. I mean, it's literally, it has one bedroom. My kids all sleep in a loft. And since I have two girls and a boy, they don't often enjoy sharing space together. So yeah, I mean, there are two doors in this cabin. One's for the bathroom, which is a, like tiny bathroom. And the other one's for the bedroom. And then that's it. So yeah, it really is a little cabin, but we've enjoyed it, and it's been really nice because, with kind of having been on lockdown and quarantine and stuff, we were able to still go up there and have a little bit of a break, run a little lake, and so get to get out in the kayak. And our boat we're not boat people. We bought a really, really, really bad boat, and we managed to get it in the water and to the dock this year. And then every time we've tried to take it out, it's died. We haven't had much boating experience this summer, but it's been nice to get out in the kayak and just, I don't know, something about just being up there and knowing that, I mean, it's this tiny cabin, and I love it because there's really nothing to do, as far as like upkeep or anything. I mean, you can vacuum and clean the entire place in about 30 minutes. And so there's not a lot of things to do.
Nice, though, just to have nothing to do.
Yes.
That's good. So are your kids back in school?
Not yet. Here in Minnesota, they normally don't go back until after Labor Day.
Oh, okay.
And this year, my husband and I opted to do all online this first semester just because we weren't sure what was going to be going on. And so one of them starts next Tuesday, and then the other two start on the 14th, which is kind of funny because I know several other places they've been back at school for weeks. So
yeah, we have here, but we're doing the online thing here as well.
So. Okay, so yeah, they're doing hybrid here. So they would go, if we hadn't opted for the full online, they would go Monday, Tuesday in person, and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday online. And then the other half of the kids would go Thursday, Friday. I think they're like A through L or A through M go 2 days, and then the other half of the alphabet goes 2 days.
I just don't know how that's going to work out. I hope they're safe.
I don't either. No, I don't either. And I've got one going into 6th grade, which is middle school, and one going into 9th, which is the first year of high school. So there's a lot of transitions this year. It's a lot of unknowns. I think it's really hard for kids right now. So, but we had a COVID scare. My oldest had to do a COVID test, and just, I don't know. Just everybody has to make their own decisions. I feel like we're in a place where I'm home all day, and my husband his office has been closed since March. So we're around, so we were able to do it. But yeah, my heart goes out to people that, have to make decisions based on jobs and things like that. So
wear your masks, everybody.
Right.
When you have to go out, you wear your masks. And
I have the rash to prove it. I think I'm allergic to my mask. I've tried washing it in like baby detergent. I keep getting a rash, and I don't even wear it that often because I only go out, maybe once or twice a week to the store and stuff. It's not like I am out all the time wearing it, but yeah.
Well, I have a very super nice mask that someone sent me that has Lizabeth Scott on it and has author Lizabeth Scott on it. Yeah. I'm spoiled.
You are. I thought about trying to make some masks for about half a minute, and then decided my time would be best spent supporting other local businesses who have much more skill in that area.
I so totally know what you mean. So, let's see. What did you do before you were a writer?
Oh, quite a few different things. Right before I decided to stay home writing, I worked for a little business that did online music. So if you ever get a copy of Billboard magazine, you can see the back of my head in one issue because they took a picture of me as I was demoing one of our tablets. I can't tell you which issue it is, but that's my one brush with pseudo fame. So I did marketing and stuff for them. I've done a variety of different things. I've owned my own business before. I worked here in Minneapolis. I worked for Target Corporation for a while. So lots of different things.
Oh, shoot. Hang on. What do you think makes a good story?
I think questions, creating story questions is what gets me reading. Love it or hate it. I mean, I read that entire 50 Shades series because I wanted to know what had happened to him when he was a kid to make him the person he was. And so, I think just kind of creating those story questions that want to keep the reader going to find out, whether it's a piece of backstory or if it's something that's happening. But those are the things that get me hooked, that get me, that keep me reading, is to kind of try to figure out the pieces of the puzzle.
Right.
So I think that's what makes a good story, is just having that constant, one story question might be answered, but then another one pops up right away. And so I don't know that I've, mastered the technique of doing that in my own work, but when I'm reading other people's writing, that's what really keeps me going, is just that need to know. It's like one more chapter.
And see, that's kind of like I need to know about Lacey's brother, that I'm not going to find out.
See, he wasn't even really in the book that much. They mentioned him several times.
I guess I bonded with him already.
I would love to write his story. Maybe you'll get that one. We'll see.
Do you have favorite authors?
Of course I do.
And who are they? Go ahead. Who are they?
Well, Lizabeth Scott, for sure.
Oh, me?
I think it depends on my mood. I I love rom-coms. I tend to gravitate toward rom-coms because I feel like life is so hard to begin with that any bit of laughter is much appreciated. We last week on Romance Happy Hour, I got to talk with Lucy Score. She's a personal favorite of mine. I had, some fangirl moments while we were having that conversation. So I love reading her work. I also love Lauren Blakely. I got hooked early on in Lauren Blakely's rom-com work. So yeah, anything that's kind of the funnier, the better. I love Kristen Higgins. There's so many. It's hard to, name name them. Again, it's like picking your own favorite book. And since I have been lucky enough to be in this industry and had a chance to meet some of these people in real life, I loved Sylvia Day's Crossfire series. I made a fool out of myself the first time I met her in person. um, so yeah, I think there's just a lot of favorites.
Well, where do you get your ideas for your books from?
Where do you get yours?
From everything.
I was going to say, wouldn't it be nice if you could just, go to the idea bank and just withdraw? I don't know. They come from everywhere.
They do.
Mm-hmm.
They really do.
I think I have people ask me that all the time. Like, where'd you get this idea? I'm like, I don't know. I think as a writer, I mean, I don't know if you do this, but like I'm constantly, and of course not so much now because we're at home all the time, but I mean, I used to like go to the coffee shop and I would pretend to write and I would just be listening to, conversations around me and or if I'd go out, we would do girls' night once a month with my neighborhood ladies and we'd go out for girls' night, and I'd hear them talking about, all the crazy things that have been happening with them or their kids or their families and stuff and everything, like every little snippet, I feel like I just kind of file it away and then you just never know when you're going to need it. But now it's harder because I feel like we're so isolated. And so,
it's hard.
I spend a lot of time online. Weird news. I love weird news because you never know what kind of ideas that's going to spark.
Yep. Hey, what's the weirdest thing that you have got hooked on online?
Oh gosh. Well, I don't know that it's super weird, but I can spend hours. I like to knit and crochet, and I can spend hours looking at patterns for that. I don't think it's safe to say some of the weird things I've come across in my research because
we don't have to talk about that kind of research.
Yeah, I mean, one of my books, All I Want to Do Is You, is kind of a steamy rom-com road trip romance, and the hero in there has some special hardware. And I had some interesting research sessions on Google for that. I don't know. I tell my husband, just don't look at my Google history. Yeah. Whatever you do, if I forget to clear my browser, like don't take it personally. I'm not cheating on you. And I'll look up dating advice and I'll look up like romantic dates and things like that, and constantly looking up stuff like that. And then, of course, we never go on dates or do anything like that. And so, don't pay any attention to my Google history. I promise.
Well,
nothing bad.
I have got hooked on have you seen any of the Samantha, the Shaw family, the father and daughter? They sing.
Mm-mm.
I've got hooked on them. I subscribe to their channel. You should watch them. They're so good. It's a father and daughter, and they sing like Disney songs or popular songs or whatever.
Okay.
It's very good. Well, so tell us, we're at about the end of our show. Tell us what you want us to be looking for next from you.
Well, I would love it if you would go check out the rom-com anthology that we've got coming out September 29th. It's called Jingle Balls, and all of the proceeds are going to support testicular cancer awareness. So And it's a great deal. I mean, we've got some amazing authors in there, and all of the stories are, they're short stories, but also, long enough to definitely, I think, I'm trying to think, when I was looking at doing the print version, it was, I mean, it's like 900 pages of reading material for 99 cents. So very good value. And I feel like the more that we kind of picked this charity because one of the participating authors has a relationship with the founder. And the more I'm learning about it, men don't like to go to the doctor. And I think women have been trained to, check the girls once a month and stuff like that. And it's definitely part of our culture. And guys don't. I don't think guys talk to each other about, checking
Right.
themselves. And so yeah, the more I've learned about it, it's a great cause. And so if you have 99 cents to spare,
Be
we
sure
definitely will deliver some fun rom-coms for you. So that's what's next for me.
Be sure and send me the copy. I'll be glad to share it on my group.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for coming tonight. I've had a
It's always
ball.
fun to talk with you.
Oh, wow. I have a feeling we're going to be talking more in the future.
Yay!
Don't you think so? We might. Guys, we have some big news, but we can't share it with anyone yet. You'll just have to stay tuned, right?
Yep.
So we will tell you goodbye.
All right.
Thanks so much for coming, and we'll be talking later.
All right. Thank you so much for having me. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Okay, everybody. For me, I'm sorry. I will ask Dylann to tell us about the piercings. I missed that question. So I'll be sure to have her comment on the feed to tell you about the piercings. And be sure to check out her book, Jingle Balls, which I love that name. So if you didn't know that I had a release on Friday, Royal Surrender is now available. So I hope you'll check it out. It's Hayden's story. That's Mary and Kai's oldest son. He's the crown prince. And if you have already read Royal Surrender, be sure and comment and let me know how you liked it. And let me tell you who is going to be our I'm trying to do something that I should have already done, but I didn't do it yet. Okay, here it is. Guess who our featured author for next month is? And I am so excited. Our featured author next month is going to be P.T. Michelle. Yay! And the book that we are going to be doing is book 1 of her In the Shadows series. It's Mr. Black. And if you've not read that book, you need to. It's free right now, so you can grab it for free. And book 2 is only 99 cents right now. And trust me, you're going to want book 2. It's an incredible series. It's the first book that I have. This is how I discovered P.T. Michelle, was this series, Mr. Black, In the Shadows. So that's our book for the week. For next month, I've already got the links on my webpage, and they should be posting soon in our group. So be sure and pick up Mr. Black. And that's it for me for this month. And we will be talking soon again. We'll probably do another bingo night in a couple weeks. We'll see. Let me know what you want to do. Okay. That's it for me. Talk to you later. Bye.